Hi, I'm Ignatia Nilu. It's Ignatanilu. Just shortly call me Nilu. I am a petite ladies with a black shirt, the black pants, also in the black room at the moment from the studio of Feridono. He's an artist based in Indonesia, and I'm sitting around his installation. The title of the artwork is The Genetics, The Manipulation of the Genetics. It's come from the 2017 artworks, and it was presented in the Bangkok Biennales in 2018. And we are pleased to announce that finally we will also collaborate with him, and showing his installation comes along with our projects called Radio Ensemble, which is part of the Abandoned Normal Device Festival. It's very special since the pandemic of 2020, which I think most of us, we are stick around in the house and we cannot travel, and we didn't reach the art world so much, and we still can do this collaboration and doing this long distance project through Jogja and the UK. And the Radio Ensemble itself a trigger from the long research in the 2020 when I was happened to visit Liverpool and Manchester. We've been seeing a lot of things, institution, meeting amazing people there, curator, organizer, producer, and also most of the talented artists that I was met there. And it's happened that we can still do this presentation today. And the presentation itself is going to be online. On the 19th of June, the premiere of the project Radio Ensemble is going to be online. It's going to be launched online through the Domes FM UK, and it's going to be accessible until the 11th of July through the site of Domes FM and also the On Festival site. And we also planning to launch publicly on the 2nd until the 4th of July, both in Yogyakarta and also in the UK. Both sites going to be accessible for public, and it's free, and you just need to register through our website to access the artwork and visit the exhibition. And you can interact with the artworks. The artwork itself is going to be an interactive installation, and you can choose whether you want to see the installation or access the partial ensemble or the full ensemble there. Okay, what is the radio ensemble? It sounds very tricky. It's a radio or ensemble, some people asking the question. And it's definitely come from the idea how we look radio as the old technology that connects people from long time ago. It's basically a pulse modulation, and people can hear the modulation of the pulse and frequency there. And I was lucky, I met with my colleague Gatot Danar, also with Tony Mariana, and three of us working and collaborate through the integration and meets between the work of arts, technology, engineering, and also music. The Radio Ensemble, we trying to create a platform which connect a different place between UK and Yogyakarta, and it's brings people to collaborate, both musicians from the UK and Indonesia, to work under an auditive score which prepared by Gatot Danar as a composer. Also, we're trying to develop a radio theme, also a radio installation, which working with a very simple operation, and it's break out into the 6 channel, which you can access it partially, and you can change the way you access radio into an instrument. And this idea bring us into collaborating the 4 artists. There's 2 artists come from the UK and 2 artists come from Indonesia. They are Daniel Thorne from the UK and Jonathan Herring from the UK meets with Daniel Cesar from Jogja, also Harsha Wahono from Jakarta. Both are Indonesia. They are 2 different cities. Anyway, yeah. And these artists, they are also a composer. Basically, they improviser. They're working with a different kind of instrument. Well, they some of them have a specific major. Like Cesar, he's working with percussion and drum. Also working with experimental things and found object. Harsha, he's mostly focusing with percussion and also auditive synthesis, working also a lot with electronic thing and instrument. And Jonathan Herring and Daniel, I think both of them, they are working a lot with wind instrument like sax and clarinet and many more. And they also, I think most of them working a lot with electronics. And we're very exciting to meet these 4 artists to work on this project. They receive this course and they're doing amazing interpretation through sound, a lot of movements, and also interesting concepts, which is presented in interesting spectrum of music. And now we are trying to develop this into a certain kind of layers and spectrum, which you can access it in this multiple channel of the radio. And those, for you to access this, you need to know and learn and experiment with enjoying only from the one source of sound or the various source of sound. You can access it yourself, or you can bring your friends to access it. And also the one idea of the project is about how you experiment with the culture of listen cultures, how you trying to see the different way of sound form. And still we're speaking about the essence of radio. Radio is the media. It's an old media to communicate. It's bring information, it's bring communication, it's bring education, also it's bring a cultures. And I think after 12 months of lockdown everywhere, we would like to respond the situation with this work. So this platform, basically an open platform for musicians and artists to sending an interactive message, culture, interaction, information, and you can reach out and sending your ideas to everyone to the radio frequency. It was a great time when, after the first research to UK, I met with Gatot, my colleague from the old time. He is a musician, a composer also, a sound person. I don't know what the right term to describe the last thing, the sound person, to describe what he's doing with sound, because he's doing so many things like field recording, also object, 3D sound, creating a sound design, sound manipulation, and many more. And I know he's also successfully developed his speakers company, which he make himself the technology. Is a kind of polymath. It's make him perfect to this project. And we also have an amazing discussion regarding what is radio, and it is still relevant to see radio as a concept. And and you see that we're trying to sorting out the way we see radio, also what actually we can do about it. And yeah, there is two things that we're trying to picture and draw the way we see and the art practice. So how we look radio as a concept, a methodology, and also a protocol of art making. So it's beyond the radio as a devices. And the more the further I understand that Gatot also have the capacity to mastering the process of the engineering to this project. At that time, I'm start also to think, let's invite Tony Mariana to join the project. And this meet of three of us has been creating the way of looking, mapping what actually going on to the daily life in our social environment, in our nation, in the international community. Well, also in fact, we are so much influenced and moved by this pandemic and COVID situation. I mean, our life has been strongly shift ever. I mean, since the early 2020, and since the lockdown happened globally, there are many things going on, and we are, as an artist, curator, or people which work in the arts, in the creative and cultural field, is strongly affected to the way we bring our arts to people. So, speak about the radio. It's also very much close to our daily life. The communication radio, it has been changed and shifted a lot since the 40s, and maybe most of us today only find radio through their smartphone, computer, or any digital devices. But then there is something very interesting to see this journey. The development of radio nostalgic still has a special situation. It is a sign of era when audio or auditive things is a unique marker of that time. In the past, there was no digit frequency. How closely we look for signal is a very nostalgic aspect. And we also want to withdraw this experience with our history or our cultural identity. There's a Javanese treasure, wayang ketoprak. There was a boom that time in the development, like in the size of radio. I mean, the size, the auditive size through radio. When ketoprak RRI, the radio, Indonesian Central Radio, is a durable production. As I see personally, this development of the media net application as product like Tobong when actually after it went into stage concept or stage presentation toward in the form of drama, audio drama. So let's just imagine a multiple player application like this. Oh, here is a multiple player application. Da, 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 da. So if we trace it, all technology cannot be separated from it, from radio, including to large microphone. There is a playfulness that we need to see if we want to talk about sound art. If we can tangle the taxonomy and then make an interpretation, it must have a metric. What is it? We must have a complete picture of what the message of trap here. Of course, if we are talking about wave frequency, of course, trapping them into receiver. So yeah, we need receiver here. Because in this wave process, the process is invisible. Modulation is invisible. But we have an understanding as a system knowledge, fact, knowledge, and imagination. So we have a picture that guides you to understand a system pattern of transmitting and receiving a radio wave. But inside, it is usually what is general public chases. because most of us or most of the public wanted to hear the content instead of the process or the journey of the wave itself. I think between me and Gatot, we have a interesting discussion about most of people expect a harmonious music. I mean, not sound as a sound. And Gatot's thinking we need metric to visualize the work process or the process of the work. I mean, to see the whole process like this, and we need to do in-depth study, and also how to express the idea into the hybrid, both digital and also the analog. That's why we put there is a multi-band transmitter. Here you see several transmitter. There is a fourth transmitter. It's a multi-band transmitter, and we inject them. I mean, we include the music, the composition from each musician. We invite 4 artists here. There is Daniel Thorne from UK, Daniel Cesar from Jogja, Jonathan Herring from UK, Harsha Wahana from Indonesia. So these 4 artists, we put their composition into this transmitter, and we combine them into special metric, and somehow it's an ensemble concert. This is how the radio art work, and it's also a very special if you also see it from the psychoacoustic perspective. This is the logic. Also, we can see the logic of distancing when the resonance system is openly contained in the information. There is indeed a message that is somehow can be missing. It's very obvious, which is memorial. It's very memorial in the nature, where radio has a special impression in audio history, for the puppet is played beyond the reading of the holy book, and so on. The interrelation between the development of listening culture and the symbolic social relation that actually develop now dominate in a certain generation. So substantially, the audio represent distancing. Besides distancing, it's also built intimacy. If we withdraw from the nature of the media, I mean media only sound, does mixing of heterogeneous media on radio have any innovative value? This is a big question, and precisely back to the roots, since hearing is the first information for us, for people, for human to understand the world. Information was born the first through the audio function, but confirmation is always visual. It's in the audio, it's definitely an illusion.
On this project, I built a transmitter. The transmitter is probably 70s technology radio transmitter that's containing transistor type of transmitter. It's containing 3 main stage. The first stage is the audio input, and the second stage is oscillator, and the final stage is amplifier of transmitter, of radio transmitter. This is a simple design, FM design. So that's in the channel is probably from 88 megahertz to 104 megahertz. It's about the range like that. Materialization of this schema, I will put on design, a digital circuit design. So that's very easy to build and to implement to CNC machine. So that's a CNC machine that help to produce the engraving type of PCB. So that's make quickly to produce the radio. It's very simple because just transform the key code and also to as a CAM file and then print to the CNC machine. The component is very simple because this is just for resistor, electronic condensator, capacitor, and some coil and also transistor. And this is from local electronic store, so very easy to get. See, this is a special DIY shop available in here, and I think the quality is about medium quality. So that's it's not professional, but it's enough to produce the device for this purpose. I built a 4 transmitter for each musician because it will be 4 musicians, and for each musician will be transmit to one transmitter. The transmitter will put on scripture, and we will have a 4 scripture to represent the transmitter. So that's the idea to put on distance. So that's a kind of installation, and also for the public presentation we will be fun. During performance, each track will distribute to a single radio station as a transmitter. So it's for different channel station, and play or broadcast simultaneously. And to listen full part of ensemble, listeners should have more than one device or receiver, or they can make a small group containing 4 devices for a full part, or they can experimenting how to listen for fun. Each musician will contribute as a soloist. They will get an audio score as a stimulant to produce musical activity and put that into the recording session. Full duration is about 50 to 60 minutes. Audio score is open interpretation containing sound, acoustic phenomena, soundscape, and something else. Each musician can interpret the audio score and make some interaction artistically. After musicians take a recording for their musical activity, it will be compiled to synchronize each musician and put into the digital audio workstation as a full part of an ensemble, and sending each file to single channel transmitter. That's the full procedure of this project.
In my opinion, I think the Radio Ensemble project, this is very interesting, and how we combine between the low tech and high tech about the radio station. This time people use the satellite to communicate each other, and this is from Nikola Tesla when he used the atmosphere as a transmitter to communicate between all people in the world. And this one, I think this project, how to communicate between the music composers and also the sound artists from England and in Indonesia to collaborate, to work each other from different spaces, but can communicate, use the experimental performance through this technology from the actual art installations who create the sounds as well as the the live performance from different countries, like from England. I think like that. The mindset of technology is not only about the high tech, but also when we use a piece of pencil, this is already technology. So when we live, we cannot avoid from technology. And through the Greek philosophy, I think art and technology are all together, the meaning of the art and technology, because the technology can develop the quality of human life in culture and in civilizations. So the role of technology, I think we can use many different kind of technology, especially through art. In art, sometimes we have a problem about the meaning of aesthetic. So when we create art, I think we have to put in the pure meaning of art. Like in visual art, we didn't use word of art, we just use visual. And for performance art, like theater or dance, we can use a movement. And also in music, we didn't use art, we just use sound. So from the visual, movement, and sound, we can create something, and then we can claim as art through the technology we have. Yes, I think the region or Rekayasa Genetica, this is when we learn about the biology in in different generations. We have we call filial for the name of genetic. So the first time when I worked with the issue of Rekayasa Genetica or genetic manipulation of genetic, that I think this is very interesting when we look at the traditional puppet. In the traditional puppet, very often in different generations, only the same puppet, only different style of puppet, but they never create another generation of puppets. So if the puppet's alive, I think they can make love and then can create new types of different kind of puppet. And in this issue of region, the works I create for Bangkok Art Biennale 2018 in Bangkok. Actually, this is the issue about the robotic issue from digital through the three-dimensional robotic in the cyber technology, when human being can create the manipulation human being, like Sophia. You know, Sophia is not human being, but he has the intelligence the same like human being. So in the future, actually, people can look at the mythology of the comic through the reality, and time by time, actually, the technology can develop their intellectuality.
Yes, so I'm very pleased to announce that finally for the Radio Ensemble project, we can collaborate with Heri Dono. He's one of my favorite artists and one of the most contemporary artists from Indonesia that he's been actively showing his artwork internationally since the 90s. His work has been showing in Venice Biennale and also a lot of international festival and collected in museum globally. As you can see that he's working a lot with installation and also there's a lot of painting and drawing and also performances. But definitely I'm in love with his installation, which since the 90s he's been working a lot with different kind of materials. There's a lot of sound cables and movement in his artworks, and his artwork is very much critical and speak about social and political issues. It's not only about the Indonesian issues but also the international issues. And also the artwork is speaking about also the social movement and about a community. And to me that's very important, and also very honored that the Radio Ensemble project can collaborate with an artist such as Heridono.